afternoon, and welcome to the Revival of the Mind 10th Anniversary Virtual Celebration. My name is Leland Pender, WIS TV morning anchor, and I am delighted to take part in today's celebration with you. I know you know the phrase, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." The United Negro College Fund has advocated for educational equality, educational access, and funding for more than 70 years. The UNCF provides general operating support and financial relief for students of color at historically black colleges and universities. South Carolina is home to several UNCF schools, including Benedict College, Allen University, Claflin University, Morris College, and Voorhees College right here in the Midlands. HBCUs represent just 3% of all colleges and universities in our country. UNCF has helped more than double the number of minority students attending college across the country. HBCUs make a great impact on our society. They represent 24% of all African Americans with STEM degrees, 14% of all African American college students, and listen to this, 70% of all African American dentists and physicians, 50% of all African American engineers, 50% of all African American public school teachers, and 35% of all African American attorneys. How can we not support such a worthy cause? Well, today we celebrate a momentous milestone, the Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee's annual fundraiser, the Revival of the Mind Luncheon. This year marks 10 years of being a staple event in the community. The second Monday in March was already marked on our calendars, and by now we would be enjoying each other's company at the luncheon, but instead the global health pandemic has prevented us from doing that and being together in person, but it has not changed our enthusiasm and commitment to education. I hope you enjoyed today's virtual celebration and hope that you will continue to support the United Negro College Fund.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to greet you on behalf of Benedict College. South Carolina is fortunate to have 5 UNCF schools. They are Allen University, Benedict College, Claflin University, Morris College, and Voorhees College. Your viewing today says that you believe in enhancing the quality of education for deserving students at these institutions. Your financial support ensures that UNCF member colleges and universities remain a vital resource for students of color. UNCF has distributed more funds to help minorities attend school than any entity outside the federal government. By working together in the Midlands area, we continue to guarantee that many academically talented young people will have an opportunity to earn a college degree. UNCF students, on average, come from families with lower socioeconomic backgrounds compared to other college students, so every dollar you give will make a difference in their lives. Last year, Benedict College received nearly $300,000 from the United Negro College Fund in the form of scholarships, operating support, professional development, and internships. Know that your gifts are greatly needed. UNCF member institutions continue to lead the race in creating the next generations of professionals who work to ensure that our nation is competitive and secure for the future. A special thanks to Mrs. Rosina Lucas, chair of the Midlands Area UNCF campaign, and her committee. The Revival of the Mind Luncheon is the committee's signature event. Ensuring its success is no small feat. I applaud Mrs. Lucas and her committee for their dedication to higher education. Congratulations are also in order for the inductees to the A Mind Is Society. Your financial support shows your commitment to education, particularly minority students. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the virtual celebration of the luncheon's 10th anniversary, and thank you for believing that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Please enjoy the rest of the program.
Good afternoon. I am Leandra Hayes Burgess, Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Benedict College. We cannot forget UNCF's motto, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." It has been ingrained in us since the 1970s. But did you know there's a second part to that motto? It says, "But a wonderful thing to invest in." And I am proud to say that you are evidence of the motto. Your belief in the importance of education and the importance of historically black colleges is evident. You are investors in education. You ensure that scholarships are awarded to students of color and that historically black colleges continue to thrive through general operating support and professional development. More than 50,000 UNCF scholarship recipients are educated at historically black colleges and universities annually. The United Negro College Fund has ensured that $32 million in financial support is provided to HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions. You will hear a little later from Benedict College's UNCF scholarship recipients for this academic year, Ms. Angela Luwani and Mr. Tyrell Simmons. They are dynamic students, embodying the phrase, the best of BC. It is because of investors like you that they will continue to strive towards excellence in their studies as students of color and make their mark on the world after graduation. Thank you for investing in brilliant, deserving students of color. Your dividend is their academic success. And thank you for your viewing today. It is profound evidence of your support of institutions of higher education and minority students. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Rosina Lucas, Chair of the Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee. On behalf of the committee, I would like to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your unwavering support of the United Negro College Fund. The committee appreciates all supporters of the campaign. Individuals, churches, Greek letter organizations, and businesses in the Midlands area. Without your financial commitments, the United Negro College Fund and our historically black colleges in the Midlands would not be able to achieve their goals of educating marginalized students. We are excited to celebrate 10 years of providing an avenue for the community to support higher education. The Hats Off to UNCF Luncheon and Revival of the Mind Luncheon have become anticipated events in the Midlands every year, hosted by the Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee. It is because of you that we, the Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee, have been successful in raising funds for the United Negro College Fund. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angela Luwani. I am a proud UNCF MUFG Union Bank Scholarship recipient at Benedict College. I am a junior majoring in accounting with a minor in management. I have a 3.88 grade point average and hail from Alexandria, Virginia. I am the second in my family to attend college and the first to attend a historically black college. My brother and I always performed well academically. However, my mother was unfamiliar with the higher education process of applying, selecting, and paying for college. She was born and educated in India. The disconnect left us to make financial aid decisions independent of our parents. I am your dividend. Because of generous donations such as yours, I can be the best of BC without the financial worry. I received one of the Benedict's top academic scholarships, which covered most of my financial needs. However, the scholarship from the United Negro College Fund provided the additional aid I needed to cover all of my college expenses. The United Negro College Fund has allowed me a rare opportunity to receive a stellar education at Benedict College at no cost to me or my parents. I am extremely blessed and fortunate. Thank you for believing in students such as myself. Your investment in education results in students like me across the HBCU world who are determined to succeed despite obstacles. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tyrell A. Simmons, a rising senior and mass communications major at Benedict College. I am the 2020-2021 UNCF Walt Disney Corporate Scholarship recipient, and I hold a 3.2 grade point average. I was raised in a small town in the wonderful city of White Pond, South Carolina. I have always found myself speaking and singing in front of my church family. I loved entertaining. As I grew older, I developed a jovial personality filled with love and laughter. I always knew that I would major in mass communications with the ultimate career aspiration of becoming a radio personality. The United Negro College Fund gives hope to all students regardless of their socioeconomic status. Their scholarships and internships provide students an equal chance to reach new heights as they continue their pursuit of an undergraduate education. Without the United Negro College Fund, I would not be enrolled at Benedict College. The scholarship provided the funds needed to cover a financial gap that would have not been met. The United Negro College Fund cares for all students, and it is because of your investment that they are able to do so. Students like me can continue our educational studies and be the best possible in return. I am your dividend. I have excelled and continue to thrive to showcase that I am the best of BC. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Mind Is Annual Giving Society is a special group of individuals who across this country have recognized the urgent need to provide the resources necessary to support thousands of talented students in our 37 UNCF member institutions. It is my pleasure this afternoon to induct the following individuals that have supported this event and Benedict College by giving their personal funds. Please join me in congratulating and thanking the 2021 inductees. Mrs. Ethel Adams, Mrs. Doris Andrews, Dr. Rosalind Clark Artis, Ms. Ada Belton, Dr. and Mrs. Russell Booker, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Brown, the Honorable and Mrs. Benjamin Byrd, Mrs. Sadell Gates, Mr. Charles Johnson, Attorney and Mrs. I.S. Levy Johnson, Dr. Walida Johnson in memory of Mrs. Barbara C. Moore, Mrs. Wilhelmina Kempson in memory of Dr. Milton Kempson, Mrs. Rosina Lucas, Mrs. Marlene McClurklin, Mr. Donald Murphy, Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Nelson, Mrs. Geraldine Parker, Dr. Phyllis Perkins, Mrs. Thelma Perkins, Dr. Malqueen Richardson, Mrs. Barbara Riley, Mr. Anthony Robertson, Dr. Jasper Salmon, Mr. and Mrs. Gerald S. Salmon, Mr. Larry Sanders, Drs. Robert and Kathleen Scott, Dr. Jerome Smith, Mr. Nathaniel Spells Sr. and Mr. Nathaniel Spells Jr., Dr. and Mrs. David H. Swinton, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Taylor, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Thomas, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Washington, Mrs. Lily White, and Mrs. Thelma Whitney. Congratulations to you all. UNCF joins with Benedict College and each of you to expand support of a call to purpose made by our founder over 77 years ago. Together, we are united in this national effort to help our member institutions and their students to thrive and make an impact in our communities, this nation, and indeed the world. At this moment, I declare you set apart as members inducted into this distinguished national A Mind Is Society with all the privileges, duties, and responsibilities of that membership. And I encourage you to inspire others to join you in this movement. I give you a heartfelt welcome into the fold of the Mind Is Giving Society Midlands chapter.
Wow, what a great tribute to this year's A Mind Is Society inductees. I know their induction has you wondering about the Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee and who they are. Well, the revitalization of the Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee spurred a sense of determination. The committee grew from a handful to close to 20 members of the community. Expanding on the small A Mind Is receptions held during the mid-2000s, the Revival of the Mind Luncheon has grown to an event of more than 300 attendees. The committee consists of a representation of folks from civic and Greek letter organizations, churches and auxiliary groups, and graduates of UNCF schools throughout the Midlands area who reside in Richland, Lexington, Newberry, and Fairfield counties. It's charged with raising $75,000 a year for the United Negro College Fund through Benedict College. The committee is spearheaded by Mrs. Rosina Lucas, a devout supporter of education. Members host two signature events annually, the Revival of the Mind Luncheon held in March and the Hats Off to UNCF Luncheon led by the Faith and Education Subcommittee in December. Now, it's safe to say that the Midlands Area UNCF campaign has succeeded in renewing and revitalizing the community's commitment to students of color in financial need.
Good afternoon. I'm Helen Shumpert, Chair of the Faith and Education Initiative and the Hats Off to UNCF Luncheon. Churches are the cornerstone of historically black colleges and universities. Many were founded on religious principles, including that of the Baptist and the African American Episcopal churches. For the past 5 years, the Midlands UNCF campaign has made a concerted effort to engage houses of worship in our area. Churches participate by having UNCF Sundays to raise funds, and the committee's second signature event, the Hats Off to UNCF Luncheon. The event specifically speaks to women of faith and those who love to wear hats. On the first Saturday in December, ministers' wives and women auxiliary groups gather to enjoy food, fashion, and fun. A staple during the luncheon is the hat show. It is a delightful morning. The Faith and Education Initiative Subcommittee consists of representation from the Gethsemane Baptist Association with the Baptist E&M Convention of South Carolina. Mrs. Melva Jeffcoat and Mr. Kenneth Ayers, co-chairs, work to ensure a great luncheon. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge President Laretha Pittman and the Executive Board of the Women's Auxiliary to the Gethsemane Baptist Association, where the Ministers' Wives Committee has worked diligently in supporting the United Negro College Fund and making the luncheon a success. We hope to see you at the next Hats Off to UNCF Luncheon.
Let the work I've done speak for me. Expressions of appreciation should be heard and not just appear on paper while the work is in progress. In 2011, the late Mrs. Barbara Moore had a plan to reactivate the UNCF fundraising committee and expand the A Mind Is reception. We needed a committee to represent 5 counties in the Midlands and a sub-Mind Is committee, which had been a special fundraising for 7 years. It was discussed that the chair of that subcommittee would form the plans and proceed to contact friends, graduates, businesses, and community groups to be inducted into A Mind Is Society. At the newly inception revival of the Mind Luncheon, the person in mind for this task enjoyed fundraising projects. She worked hard for her church, Benedict College, and other organizations. She never hesitated to send letters, make telephone calls, and visits to persons that she had in mind. It is because of her that the Mind Is Society grew from 12 members in 2011 to now close to 30 individuals. It is at this time the Midlands Area UNCF Committee highly appreciates and recognizes Mrs. Marlene Murphy McClurkin for her commitment and unwavering energy to making the revival of the Mind Luncheon and the Mind Is a success.
The campaign committee would like to thank the following individuals, organizations, and businesses for their consistent support of the revival of the Mind Luncheon over the last 10 years. Mrs. Ethel Adams, Mrs. Ada Belton,
PremiumBeat.com,
Benedict Columbia Alumni Club No. 2, Beta Beta Zeta Chapter, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, the Honorable and Mrs. Benjamin Byrd,
PremiumBeat.com,
Columbia Alumna Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Nu Omega Chapter, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Greenview First Baptist Church, Attorney and Mrs. I.S. Levy Johnson, Johnson Garbage Service, Dazzle Events by Andrea, Mrs. Rosina R. Lucas, Mrs. Marlene McClurkin, Dr. Phyllis Perkins,
PremiumBeat.com,
Mrs. Thelma Perkins, Dr. Malqueen Richardson, Dr. Jasper Salmon,
PremiumBeat.com,
Doctors Robert and Kathleen Scott, Dr. and Mrs. David H. Swinton.
PremiumBeat.com,
The Midlands Area UNCF Campaign Committee would like to acknowledge the sponsors of the Revival of the Mind's 10th Anniversary Virtual Celebration. The Dean Level sponsors: Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. Dr. Phyllis Perkins and Mrs. Thelma Perkins. The A Mind Is Professor Level sponsor, Mr. Donald Murphy and the Wesley Peachtree Group. The A Mind Is Scholar Level sponsors, Mrs. Sedell Gates, Mrs. Rosina R. Lucas, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Taylor, Doctors Robert and Kathleen Scott, and Mrs. Thelma Whitney. The Strength Level sponsors, Beta Beta Zeta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Mrs. Tanya Johnson Alston, President. The Columbia Alumna chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Mrs. Mary Smith, President. The Gamma Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Mrs. Angela G. Brown, President. And the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Columbia, South Carolina chapter, Mrs. Mary M. McClellan, President. The Courage Level sponsors, Greenview First Baptist Church, Reverend Johnny C. Owens, pastor. Right Direction Church International, Bishop Herbert and Dr. Marcia Bailey, pastors. And the Benedict Alumni Club No. 2, Mrs. Phyllis Thompson, President. The Wisdom Level sponsors, Brooklyn Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. Charles Jackson Sr., pastor. First Calvary Baptist Church, Reverend Samuel Lewis, pastor. Ladson Presbyterian Church, Mrs. Maisie Lewis. Mount Zion Baptist Church, Reverend Kevin Shepherd, Senior, pastor. Second Calvary Baptist Church, Reverend Carl R. Wells, pastor. Shiloh Presbyterian Church, Reverend Dr. Robert Scotland, pastor. St. James Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. James W. Abrams, Jr., pastor. The Charmettes Incorporated, South Midlands chapter, Mrs. Catherine Lewis, president. And Union Baptist Church, Reverend Henry Edmonds, pastor. The Hope Level sponsors, Mr. and Mrs. Matthew Addison. Antioch Baptist Church, Reverend Albert Neal, pastor. Cooper and Cooper Family Dentistry, and Doctors Noble and Tracy Cooper. Mrs. Yvonne Hall. Javis Financial Service, and Mrs. Kadena Javis. National Association of Real Estate Brokers. R.O. Levy Funeral Home, and Mr. John Summers. Tiger West Alumni Club. Mrs. Sedell Gates, president. And Reverend and Mrs. John C. Williams. Patrons of today's celebration are Mrs. Alfreda Boyd, Mrs. Winnacle Brown, Mrs. Thelma Clavon, Mrs. Dorothy Cunningham, Mr. and Mrs. Cornelius Eubanks, Mrs. Dorothy Flanders, Mrs. Alexina Fergus, Mrs. Shirley Furtick, Mr. Charles B. Gary, Mr. Clarence Gilbert, Mrs. Patricia Gold, Mrs. Doris Glenth Green, Mr. and Mrs. Charles Harris, Mr. and Mrs. Bernard J. Hazard, Mr. and Mrs. Ricky Jeffcoat, Mr. Eddie Jefferson, Ms. Gina Jones, Mrs. Barbara McCoy, Mrs. Geneva Murphy, Mrs. Cheryl Myrick, Mrs. Maxine Peterson Pearson, Mrs. Harriet Perkins, and Mr. Harold Seabrook.
The Midlands Area UNCF campaign thanks you for your support of the United Negro College Fund. We hope that you have enjoyed today's virtual celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Revival of the Mind Luncheon. Until next year, be blessed, stay healthy, and stay safe.